Hello everyone, my name is Maria Luis Versigue and we are the group 1. We will going to I we will going to present to you the multiple identities intersect and influence learners experiences. So my topic is all about the social economic status and the intersection of socioeconomic status or SES and its influence on learners' experiences is multifaceted as SES interacts with various aspects of a student's resources and opportunities. So there are four. I have four aspect like the first one is access to resources and opportunities like in higher SES students from affluent backgrounds typically have access to better educational resources such as private tutoring or extracurricular activities like sports, arts, ganyan, and technology. So these resources provide them with a competitive advantage in their education and future careers. Of course, while in lower SES, students from lower income families often face limited access to these resources. Is it true? They may not have the same opportunities for enrichment activities or specialized support, which can hinder their academic progress and limit their exposure to various career pathways. And then the next one is when it comes to academic performance and achievement. So for the higher SES, with more academic at home, um, greater access to educational tools, students from higher SES backgrounds are more likely to perform well academically. So they can also more easily navigate schools' expectations, often having parents with higher educational levels and greater familiarity with the school system. So in lower SES, academic achievement can be affected by challenges, of course, like food insecurity, lack of or limited access to learning materials like computers, just like that. So these lower SES students may also face higher levels of stress, which impacts cognitive functioning and focus, leading to lower academic outcome. And during our observation, I can see it. I can see the difference between the lower and higher SES students. And then the next is parental involvement. So in higher SES, parents in higher SES households often have more time and resources to be actively involved in their children's education. So they can attend the school events, help with homework, and advocate for their child's needs within the educational system. So in lower SES, parents from lower SES backgrounds may have less time or fewer resources to support their children's academic needs due to work schedules or financial strain. So this can result in less involvement, which can affect a child's academic performance and sense of support in their educational journey. Like uh, during my observation, the comparison between of the parents from public school and the private school is very uh, different when it comes to parental involvement. So more parang more mas may involvement yung sa mga private school unlike sa ah, sa na-observe ko sa Bueno Elementary sa grade 6. So the last one is the social capital and networking. So of course in higher SES, students from wealthier families often have access to networks or influential people. Yes, lalo na ngayon. Through their parents' professional connections, which can open doors to internships, mentorships, and job opportunities. While the lower SES, students may not have access to these types of networks, limiting their ability to build relationships that could support their future career or educational goals. They may face barriers in gaining exposure to professional opportunities that could enrich their education. So, may mga kilala kong students during my observation sa Bueno sa grade 6 na may mga connections sa mga higher na ano or should I say sa politician. And during yung program na isang beses is that person is nakita ko mismo na nandoon sa program na yon. So, that's my part. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Marcus Calugay Mariano from Group 1, and our topic is all about multiple identities, intersect, and influence learners' experiences. So today, I'm going to discuss the age and ethnicity. Elementary students are a diverse group, and their characteristics vary by age and ethnicity. In pre-kindergarten, ages 4 to 5, students are naturally curious and playful. They're learning social skills, sharing toys, and taking turns. They're also developing fine motor skills like using scissors and holding pencils. Beginning reading and writing skills emerge, and they start to recognize letters and numbers. As students enter kindergarten and first grades, ages 5 to 7, they become eager learners. They improve their reading and writing skills, and math concepts start to click. Friendships form through playing and sharing, and they learn to cooperate with their peers. In grades 2 to 3, ages 7 to 9, students grow more independent. They refine reading and writing, expand math skills, and explore interests. They begin to understand teamwork and empathy. In grades 4 to 5, ages 9 to 11, students develop critical thinking and problem solving skills. They refine social skills, learning to navigate conflicts and build stronger friendships. They prepare for upper elementary, where more complex concepts await. So while students come from diverse backgrounds with varied cultural influences, each brings unique experiences and perspectives. So to support diverse elementary students, we need to create an inclusive classroom with culturally responsive teaching, diverse textbooks, and inclusive language. We need to use differentiated instruction, incorporating learning centers, group work, and technology to engage various learning styles. So it is essential to remember that we need to avoid stereotypes and biases, focuses on individual strengths and needs, and we need to promote inclusivity, respect, and empathy, and celebrate diversity, promoting equity. So every student is unique, and understanding their individuality helps us create a supportive learning environment, and by embracing diversity, we empower our students to thrive.
Hello everyone, I'm Janalyn Maynino Aritao from Group 1, and now I will discuss or explain to you my part, which is the different learning style of elementary pupils, and how it will affect their experience inside the classroom. The way elementary pupils learn greatly impact their educational experience. Learning style have four types: the visual learners, auditory learners, reading or writing learners, and lastly, the kinesthetic learners. The visual learners are the students who learn through visual aids. The auditory learners are the students who learn by listening to the discussion of the teacher. The reading or writing learners are the one who learn through textbooks. And lastly, the kinesthetic learners are the one who learn by doing something or by doing hands-on activities inside the classroom. Based on my observation in kindergarten ages 5 to 6 years old, most of them are visual learners and kinesthetic learners, and some of them are auditory learners. I've noticed that the pupils who are auditory learners are the one having the hard time to keeping up with their classmates during the activities. And even if they have different learning style, there are pupils who are willing to help their classmates who are having a hard time to catch up to their lesson or activities. As time goes by, the auditory type of learners little by little adopted the way of learning style of visual learners and kinesthetic learners. And that's because of teamwork and collaboration that builds inside the classroom. And that's all. Thank you for listening.
Good day to each and everyone. My name is Cristil Aldimita, and for today I will discuss about family structure. And we have 6 different family types and their unique family dynamics. True, the exact definition of family depends largely on individual interpretation and cultural norms. There are some sources that define at least 6 unique family types that follow their own set dynamics and structures. So the number 1 family is the nuclear family. So when we say nuclear family, it's also known as the elementary or traditional families, consists of 2 parents. It's either married or common law, and their children. Nuclear families typically 1 or more children. They may be biological or adopted, but the main ideas is that the parent are raising their kids together in the family home. So nuclear family can be strong and successful, with both parents being great example for their kids. So in nuclear family, they have strength and weaknesses. So the strength of the nuclear families are the financial stable. Both parents usually work now. Children raised in a stable parenting situation. Consistency, emphasis of health and education, and focus on communication. So the weaknesses of nuclear families are inclusion of extended family can lead to isolation and distress. The second one can struggle with conflict resolution. And the third one, nuclear families can be too child-focused, resulting in self-centered children and families neglecting other important things. So the second type of family is the single parent. So when we say single parent, family consists one parent with 1 or more kids. In these cases, the parent either never married or divorced. So someone who is single parent and raising kids alone is not that uncommon anymore. And like any other family type, single parent home have their pros and cons. Being a single parent raising kids can be hard. It can also be hard being a kid when your parents are split or if you grow up only knowing one parent. In this situation, family needs to make the best of what they have, and and rely on each other for love and support. So the strength of the single parent families, number one is the family can become very close. The second one, they learn to household duties, and the last one is the children and parent can become very resilient. So the weaknesses of single parent families is the number one, families may have difficulty getting by on one income. It can be difficult for single parent to work full time and still afford quality child care. So the number three is the extended family. So when we say extended family, it is families live together for social support and to achieve common goal. For example, parent may live with their children and their children's grandparents. This gives the family the ability to provide care for their elderly, and in turn, the grandparents may be able to help with children care while the parents are at work. So the strength of extended families, the number one is things like respect and care for the elderly are important. Number two, more families around to help with chores, childcare in case of emergency, and other more. And last one is the social support. The weaknesses of extended families are financial issues can occur if parents are supporting several other adults and children without extra income, and lack of secludedness depending on the living environment. So the number four is the childless family. So when we say childless families, are families with two parents who cannot have or don't want kids. In the world of family type and dynamics, these families are often forgotten or left out. In the past, growing up, getting married, and having children was the norm. But in today's world, more people are choosing to postpone having children or deciding not to have any. So, these unique families include working couples who may have pets or enjoying taking on other people's kids like that for they occasionally rather than having their own. So, they could also be adventurous couple who don't like kids would be a good fit in their lifestyle. These relationships can be between wife and husband, husband and husband, wife and wife, or partner and partner. So the strength of childless families, number one, is typically have more disposable income, no dependents to take care of, have more freedom to travel, go on adventures, pursue different careers or education. So the weaknesses of childless family, couples can feel isolated or left over when all their families, friends start having kids. And if you like kids, you can feel like something is missing like that. So the number five is the step family. So, the step family is when two separate families merge into one. So, this can go several different ways, like two divorced parents with one or more children blending families, or one divorced parents with kids marrying someone who has never been married and has no kids. So, the strength of step families are children get the benefit of having two parents around. Child and their new siblings or step parents can be strong bonds. And the benefit of having two incomes compared to single parents. And the weaknesses of step families are adjustment can be difficult for parent and children. And the other one may lack of discipline or be inconsistent. So the last one is the grandparent family. The final family is the grandparent family. A grandparent family is when one or more grandparent is raising their child, this grandchild or grandchildren. This situation happens when the parents aren't around to take care of their kids or capable of properly taking care of their kids. For example, too young to provide or may have substance use disorder or possible due to parent death. Thankfully, in this situation, the grandparents step up and act as parent to their grandchildren. This family unit can happen regardless of being wealthy, poor, or middle class. So the strength of grandparent families are grandparent and grandchildren form a close bond and keeps children from ending up into foster homes and other situations. And the weaknesses of grandparent family, the grandparent may not work or full-time jobs may struggle with income. And lastly, depending on their health, it may be difficult for them to keep up with young children or discipline them as they get older. So that's all the 6 different family types and their unique dynamics.
Good day, everyone. So, my name is Jenny Budumo from Group 1. Individual personality traits can significantly intersect and shape how students experience body image and physical appearance. So, my part in this topic is body image and physical appearance. There's a breakdown of how these identities influence learners. So, we have gender identity. Gender play a key role in how children perceive body image. Societal expectations often shape the way boys and girls are expected to look or behave. This gendered expectation can lead to body dissatisfaction, teasing, or a focus on appearance. So we have cultural and ethnic identity. So when we say cultural and ethnic identity, different cultures emphasize varying standards of beauty and body image. Children from diverse cultural backgrounds may experience conflicting message about their bodies if they feel their natural features. Access resources like nutrition, healthcare, or clothing which may affect how children view their bodies. So, for example, children from lower income families might struggle with body image issue. So, we have also disability or health status. So, when we say disabilities or health status, children with physical disability or health condition might face challenges in terms of body image due to physical limitations or visible differences. We have also personality and social dynamics. A children's personality and social environment also contribute to body image. So we have a example. For example, children who are more socially confident may have a more positive body image, while those who experience bullying or exclusion based on their appearance may develop negative feelings about their bodies.
Hello everyone, my name is Beverly Velasco and our topic is all about multiple identities intersect and influence learners' experience. So now I will discuss my part, which is different language used in elementary grade and how language influence learners' experience. So based on my observation of grade 2 to grade 5 pupils, there are few and some pupils who can speak a first and second language, which are in grade 2 and grade 3, there are some pupils who use a first language, which are the mother tongue and Tagalog. Also, there are few pupils who can speak second language, which is English. When it comes to grade 4 to grade 4 to grade 5, they are all used our first language, but more on Tagalog. So I noticed that the children who struggle with Tagalog language or first language find it difficult to socialize with their classmates, friends, and even in their studies during Filipino discussion. That's why it's very important to expand and engage the students not only in mother tongue and Tagalog, let them express their skills in speaking English. more language use while elementary grades is very knowledgeable. Because language is play a crucial role in shaping learners' experience in elementary grades, influencing their cognitive development, cultural understanding, academic performance, and future opportunities. Early language provide a foundation for success in a globalized world, fostering critical thinking, empathy, and adaptability. By embracing the power of language, we can empower young learners to thrive in a diverse and interconnected society.
Good day, everyone. I am Edith Carion from BEd 4B. So my topic is all about religions. When we say religions, it is a range of social system including designated behaviors and practices, morals, and belief. So the term religions came from both Old French and Anglo-Normans and means respect of sense of right. Morals obligation, sanctity, what is great revenge of the God. The study of religions compasses a wide variety of academic disciplines, including theology, philosophy of religions, comparative religions, and social scientific studies. So, theories of the religions offer various explanations for its origins and working, including the ontological foundation of the religious, being a belief. The origin of the religious belief is an open question with possible explanation, including awareness of individual death, a sense of community, and the dreams. So, that traditionally, in addition to reason, has been considered sources of the religious belief.
Hello, good day everyone. My name is Brian P. Fernandez from Group 1. I will discuss my topic in community involvement and support system. So, the first, community service. Help out at a local food bank, animal shelter, or senior center. You can also build home for families in needs or engage with kids in after-school programs. The second is civic engagement. Participate in community activism, vote or volunteer. The third one is collaborative partnership. School and communities can work together to improve the educational experience. The fourth one is community engagement. Government can engage with residents to understand their needs and prioritize. This can help government improve service and build trust with residents. The fifth is peer support programs. This program can encourage people to seek help, talk to trusted adults, and promote peer connectedness. The last one is community assistance. Extended family members, friends, neighbor, religious organization, social programs, and cultural and ethic organization can all provide community assistance.
So, hello, I am Jerica Fabro. So, ang topic namin is about multiple identities, intersect, and influence learners' experiences. So, ang napili kong identity is about gender. So, when we say gender, ito yung lalaki, babae, lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, ganon. So, yung mga LGBT. So, paano nga ba nakaka-apekto yung gender sa school na nararanasan ng mga estudyante? So, sa mga LGBT. So, kadalasan sa mga LGBT, 'di ba? Kadalasan sila yung kadalasan na kinukutya, na pinagtatawanan, hindi lahat pero kadalasan sila yung kinukutya or pinagtatawanan. The way sila kumilos, magsalita, even yung pananamit nila is pinagtatawanan din. So, yung ganoong experience is pwedeng mag-cause ng anxiety and depression na pwedeng umabot sa point na ayaw na nilang pumasok kasi baka pagtawanan ulit sila, yun, natatakot sila. And may iba naman na nahihirapan na or nahihiya ng makihalubilo sa iba na nakaka-apekto na sa pag-aaral nila, na like hindi na nila ma-express yung sarili nila sa yung sarili niya sa ka-group niya kasi nga nahihiya na siyang makihalubilo kasi nga yung sa gender niya. So, may iba naman din na mga estudyante na tanggap yung kaklase nila or kaibigan nila kahit ano pa yung gender mo. So, yun yung maganda. And then, sa ano naman, hindi naman naiiba yun sa lalaki at babae kasi nararanasan din yun ng lalaki at babae. So, sa lalaki, like for example, di ba sa lalaki, dapat ang lalaki matapang, dapat kayang gawin ang lahat. Dapat ito, may panalo mo to. And then, pag natalo ka, sasabihan ka ng, bakla ka ba? Kalalaki mong tao, natalo ka? Hindi mo man lang naipanalo? Ganon. So, minsan kasi may na-encounter akong ganon. So, yung ganong experience ng mga kalalakihan is nakaka-apekto at na nagkakaroon sila ng pressure na nakaka-apekto talaga sa ano nila, sa pag-aaral. Ganon. So, pwedeng ayaw na nilang pumasok kasi nga nahihiya kasi hindi niya naipanalo yung gusto ng iba. And then, sa mga kababaihan naman, kadalasan nakakaranas din sila ng pressure sa physical features nila. Like, for example, may mga babae na mabalbon, na may bigote, na kadalasan lalaki lang naman ang mabigote at mabalbon. Even sa height, weight, and skin ng mga kababaihan, dapat maganda height mo, dapat maganda weight mo, dapat clear skin ka. Yun dapat yung makikita ng ibang tao sa'yo na nakakasala mukha mo. Kasi yung iba, may mga iba na hinuhusgahan ka, hindi naman alam yung nangyayari sa'yo. Kasi may mga ibang estudyante na pinagsasabay yung pag-aaral at pagtatrabaho para masuportahan yung sarili, ganon. When it comes to physical activities naman, may mga babae na gustong gawin itong sport na to, gustong gawin yan, pero dahil nga babae ka, naging hadlang yun para gawin yung gusto mo.
Good day everyone, I'm Marjorie O. Castro from BEd 4B. So our topic is multiple identities intersect and influence learners' experience. So I choose sexual orientation. Sexual orientation refers to an individual enduring patterns of emotional, romantic, and or sexual attraction to others. So, sexual orientation, kailangan nating pinag-aaralan o pinag-uusapan ang about sa sexual or sex. It is a core part of a person's identity and it can include orientation. So, sexual orientation, ito yung kailangan maging aware ang mga bata or mga magulang sa mga pinapanood ng mga bata. Kasi maraming mga bata ang napapariwala dahil nakakapanood sila ng mga iba't ibang sexual na kung saan hindi nila alam na ito ay dapat na hindi nila pinapanood. So, we have five sexual orientation. First, heterosexual, also known as straight people who are attracted to people of the opposite sex. So, heterosexual, ito yung mga straight na people na na-attract sila sa mga taong magkakaiba ang kasarian. Second, homosexual, also known as gay or lesbian, people who are attracted to people of the same sex. Yung homosexual naman is ito yung mga gay or lesbian na na-attract sila sa kaparehas nilang kasarian. So, third, bisexual, people who are attracted to people of both sexes. So, yung bisexual naman is, ito naman yung mga taong na-attract sila sa kaparehas nilang, like na lang sa, yung bisexual, ito yung na-attract sila sa babae or minsan sa lalaki din. So, yung pang-apat naman is pansexual, people who are attracted to people of any gender. Yung pansexual naman is, ito naman yung mga tao na na-attract naman sa kahit anong gender. Kunwari na lang na kung ikaw ay lalaki is ma-attract ka naman sa tomboy or sa babae. O, tas kung ikaw naman ay babae, ma-attract ka naman sa kahit na sinong o kahit na anong kasarian. And number 5 is asexual, people who are not sexually attracted to others but may or may not be emotional or romantically attracted to others. Asexual is ito naman yung nagkakagusto ka sa iba't ibang kasarian. So, when I was observing, I noticed that at a young age, there was a child who already knew the sign language of sex, but I disobeyed him because he was sharing it when his fellow children, and there was a child who at a young age got pregnant while he was studying. So teachers and parents should be aware about the sex. We need to orient the children that they should not do this because sexual is marami ang kabataan na hindi nila naiintindihan, kundi kung ano lang yung napapanood nila ay ginagaya nila. Dapat bilang isang magulang or isang guro is pinapaalalahanan natin sila na wag na pat nilang gawin ang mga bagay na hindi dapat gawin. It's common for people do not know their sexual orientation or how to label themselves. If you're struggling, you can reach out to a trusted teacher, school counselor, doctor, therapist, or other counselor. You can also check out local or online groups or LGBTQ plus clubs and organizations in your community, because learners experience with sexual orientation can significantly impact their sense of belonging, mental health, relationship, and academic performance. Kasi minsan yung sexual ay may mga kabataan na naapektuhan ang kanilang pag-aaral dahil dito. Nasisira ang kanilang pag-aaral, hindi dahil na-attract na sila sa sexual. So, kailangan natin itong ituro or palalahanan sila